Hey there everyone and welcome to another Near Monsters video. In this video we're going to go through all the holy monsters that came out in 2019. I recently went through the earth and fire monsters. You can find links to those videos in the description, also to the later ones if they've come out already. Now, there are fewer holy monsters than maybe any of the other elements, I can't remember exactly, but basically holy got a lot less support than the other elements this year, and you'll see that as we go through, but it's not necessarily a bad thing because holy was in a really good place to begin with. So there are going to be three sections of this video, starting off the first section with the themes and subthemes. That is basically the archetypes that holy is built around. Things like survivor and healing and mist is one of those ones that I've listed, but yeah, we'll see them when we get to it. The second section we're going to go through is taking a look at all the new monsters that have come out over the course of the year, going through in the order shown. In previous years we've had stuff like Raw and Link that has come out into the game. In 2019 we got loads of piercing monsters. The third section is going to be taking a look at where those new monsters fit into the element, and then taking a look forwards at what maybe holy needs, in my personal opinion, just having a look at the element in general. There are links to each of these sections in the video description as always, so you can come back to this for reference or just otherwise skip ahead to the bits you're interested in. I do recommend you watch through the whole video though, of course. Going into this first section, what we're looking at here is a big table. This includes all the new monsters that have come out in 2019. We're not going to include them in the themes that we're going to talk about in a second, but they're here now just for the stats of the element. So, as you can see, there are 4 new Mythics, 3 new Legendaries, and 5 Super Epics. We're actually going to go through 4 Legendaries, because this is the first iteration of this series which I'm bringing out, and there is a particular monster, Nultron, that technically would have been in last year's video if I'd made a video last year, but we're including it here because I think it's an interesting monster to talk about. So they are, I've got to count out of my head, there are 13 monsters we're going to go through, but there were 12 new ones this last year. Now holy, compared to the other elements, it is one of the tankier elements. There are 2 tanky elements in the game, which are earth and holy. Of those 2, well basically what makes them the tanky elements is that they have double the number of standard defense and full defense monsters compared to the other elements. It's a very noticeable amount that all the other 4 have a kind of even amount of standard defense and full defense monsters, and then Holy and Earth have double that. Now of the 2, Holy is basically the more aggressive one of them. So it has the same amount of standard defense and full defense, but it has more focus on standard defense and fewer full defense monsters. It also has a surprisingly large number of full attack monsters. Now, it doesn't have as much as some of the other elements, but compared to Earth, it's very noticeable that Holy has aggression, and actually, in fact, Holy on a lot of the monsters have enough attack to one-shot things, because that's typically the way it's built. They're meant to be sort of tanky monsters that are slow, but then they can still one-shot and otherwise do a lot of damage. That's been a way that Holy's built, and it's very powerful in that way, more so than other elements naturally, because having those higher defense, having high defense is just better if you still have the potential to one-shot or do high damage with the skills on the monsters. So that's the way Holy's been built, and in terms of the speed, you can see here as well. I've got little bits of numbers on that. There are, it may not look so noticeable that there's just a few more, like 80% rather than 55 to 60% of the monsters that are slow, but it is very noticeable. Holy is the slowest element. It's actually slower than Earth. It has the most very, very slow monsters, which means they have higher health, but it also means that Holy, if you build around Link Holy, it becomes quite difficult to have some kind of fast impact. There are only certain monsters which can do that, and it definitely struggles in that regard. So another notable thing is there's almost no poison in Holy at all. There are a few poison monsters, but it's very, very minimal. Something like Valzarane, which has dual poison touch, but it just uses the poison to heal itself rather than actually to do anything else. Valzarane can be used in other teams to like support other poison monsters, but ultimately Holy doesn't have much poison in it, which makes sense because it's meant to be the sort of pure and holy element. Now, I came out with this quote thing, I'm quoting myself there, a little line to kind of explain what Holy does. When I was looking through all the themes and all the monsters in general, I think that Holy has just a huge amount of control and keeping the monsters alive, and rather than necessarily taking control of the game with certain aspects, it does have some control. Well, let me start again. It has a lot of control, and the monsters stay alive very well. It also has, most notably compared to the other elements, it has the ability to counter almost everything. So Holy is exceptional at just being difficult to deal with, which has made it a very strong element in the past. And I would say before the monsters in 2019, Holy was definitely the strongest element, which is why I'm not surprised that it got probably the least support this year, and it has now been overtaken by another element, which we're going to talk about on another video. So moving into the themes now, the first theme to talk about is Healing Theme. And this is where you can see a huge difference in this. If you watch the last two videos already, you'll know that on each theme there'll be maybe like 6 monsters or that kind of thing. We're looking at 18 monsters that have some aspect of healing, either healing themselves or healing a teammate. Holy is incredibly synergistic, and it's one of the reasons why it's been very strong in the past. Like, as we get more and more monsters in each element, there's going to be more synergy there in general. If they're built around the same kind of ideas, then there's going to be some interlocking synergy. Holy has always had that, and so when there have been fewer monsters, Holy has stood out quite a lot with having some of this synergy that's in there to do things with. And it may fall short a little bit later on as the other elements get more monsters in there. So anyway, there's a lot to go through here, so I'm not going to pick out all of them. But what we have on the right, I believe, is the ability to heal allies. So there's various monsters there which can heal the whole team, or to actually a lot of very efficient healing the whole team. Some repeatable healing a single monster, like with the healing light from Heaven's Worm. And there's a little bit of cannibalize with the Ultima Dragon that's doing it there. But there's also some interesting ones with Utopian doing the healing give turn. So unique move there. And then in the middle we've got some ones which can life flip ally, or otherwise just heal one teammate. I think that's what I mean with the middle one there, that it can heal one teammate. But anyway, there's the life flip ally there, which is a very useful support skill and definitely works with healing. And then on the left, we've got monsters that can heal themselves with moves they use. Now, where healing actually works as a theme to build around is there are Confident Strike monsters. So on the left, you've got Dosikian. You've also got Valzarain on the left, and just otherwise trying to keep a protector alive like Aegis Dragon, or things that don't have hold ground. But anyway, so there's Confident Strike and that kind of stuff to do. There's also other monsters with, say, hold ground that would be put to hold ground and then they can't heal themselves off hold ground. But if you've got a teammate which can heal it, then it will work. And that stuff just generally makes your team very, very good for surviving. Makes it good for PvE as well, because having some survival stuff in there typically works a lot better than it does in, say, PvP, when someone will focus their moves in on to get something to hold ground and then to kill it off. PvE, the AI will maybe just hit it to hold ground, but then the next monster's turn they go, oh, well, I can critical attack this other monster because it's a sleep killer and that's a sleep monster, so they'll do that rather than finishing off the thing they put to hold ground. So anyway, healing is probably the biggest theme in Holy. It's not something that will necessarily win you games, but it definitely has aspects to it that is very strong, and you can build around it for certain monsters. The next theme is Mist. Now this is an incredibly strong theme because Mist is not just Purify, but it's also stealthing. You can see I've kind of split the monsters here. On the right there, they can stealth as well as Purify, and on the left it's just Purifying. But generally the Mist counters a lot of what other teams can do. So Purifying gets rid of both poison and sleep. Mist gets rid of any multi-hitting attacks. Sorry, when I say Mist, I think I meant to say stealth. It gets rid of multi-hitting attacks and that kind of thing. So that includes a lot of the moves in the game. And so these particular monsters, you'll probably notice a few of them are really quite powerful. Well, I say that, I think 3 are probably noticeably powerful. You've got Angel Lion there, Aura Dragon and Jaguardian, all very, very strong in their fields. Absolute top monsters. And then there are other ones which maybe would be better if the rest of the moveset was maybe a little bit better. But anyway, you've got Mist here, which is a strong bit that's strong in any team, and not something you can necessarily build around to win, but it helps support your team exceptionally well. The next theme to talk about is Stun. So Stun has not been so noticeable in the more recent monsters, but it was definitely an aspect of Holy that was there at the beginning of the game, Holy just has basically all the control stuff, and stun is control. So there's some stun stuff, and over time they've been drip feeding in a little bit more. You can see with Mojonator has the Link Stun Flash move, which is a key indicator that Holy is meant to be doing stun because it's a Link move on it. And then, yeah, there are a few others there. We've even got Tezcatlipoca over on the right. I think I said that correctly. It's the Aztec god thing. I can't remember I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. But anyway, that has probably the biggest aspect of it is the stun rebirth, because it then recreates itself in the team, and then it can do it again later on. So quite a few stun monsters here. They don't necessarily synergize particularly well, but it just adds to the overall control. There's one more theme to talk about, and you may have guessed there's quite a few themes in Holy. They're incredibly synergistic. And so I'm not going to list all the themes. I came up with there's going to be a little list at the end, which is sort of themes or sub-themes which I didn't choose to include, but I kind of noted down as I was looking through all the monsters. Anyway, fourth here we've got the Survivor theme. Now this is personally one of my favourite themes to build around. I love just the idea of using one-on-one, passing time, and then having Survivor on all your monsters. It was brilliant at the beginning of the game, and now it's not quite so strong, but Holy has Survivor, and it makes sense for Holy to have Survivor because you've got control skills, which control basically lets you pass time, and then you've also got the healing stuff and otherwise tanky monsters, so they're hopefully going to survive. So putting Survivor with that is excellent, and you can see here there's a few different Survivor monsters. Some of them good, some of them not so good, but ultimately it's definitely a theme in the element which maybe could be explored further. If they try and make it slightly more viable in, say, PvP. In PvE, it definitely is viable. You can do a lot with Chrono Titan there on the top left. Heaven's Worm is reasonably good. Its damage struggles a little bit for PvE. But Ultimate Dragon's good, and so are... I'm trying to remember the name of it. Regalian and Utopian as well. Now moving on to sub-themes. We've got the Revival sub-theme. So Revival is definitely something that Holy is known for. However, there isn't as much support for it as the other elements. It's very new in terms of the game, and makes sense because when you originally designed the game you wouldn't just throw in tons of revival stuff. That's just asking for things to get broken. But anyway, Aura Dragon is exceptionally strong with the way how it creates the 1 HP monsters. Anything of yours that dies gets put at 1 HP at the back of the team. You've also got I can't remember the exact name of it on the left, Cimarronix, that's it. Cimarronix with the Link Revival. Again, another Link move. Pretty obvious that Holy is trying to do revival stuff. And then on the right we've got Angel Lion, which doesn't really have it as a big aspect of it, but it certainly is strong, using the Soul Exchange to kill a teammate and turn it into the last thing that died. The last sub-theme we're going to talk about is Retribution. Now this again is less supported, but it's definitely part of Holy, and it makes sense. If you watch my Earth video, you'll know that in the last year we've had a Retribution strategy come up in Earth, and I think ultimately both Earth and Holy would naturally fit for Retribution as a strategy, and both of them had little bits which then, could have been expanded on, and they decided to expand on it in Earth to actually make it have another theme, because they didn't have enough themes there. In Holy it's just naturally got a little bit of it, and it hasn't really been fully expanded. So you can see here, Angel Lion's definitely Retribution monster that has it's the main source of getting the first kill is Retribution. Similarly on Jaguardian, it's got the double Retribution. That's ideally what you want to go for to get the kills before then you do the Blood Fury. It is a solo monster, but actually double Retribution is so high seconds that you can kind of charge it again by the time he gets another skill. And he's also got the Stealth Bane stuff going on, so he can focus on that stuff rather than the solo Blood Fury. And then in terms of Retribution on the other stuff, it may not be so obvious on the Prismarix. I'm really testing myself here. Prismarix, but it can do the stunt double, which gives the rock into the field, and then that basically helps charge Retribution because the rock will hopefully die first. So it synergizes with Retribution monsters, even though it doesn't have Retribution itself. And also Dual Slayerbane is kind of close to Retribution. It's a similar kind of idea. You make your enemies, the enemy monsters get kills, and then you benefit from that. The one in the middle here, I'm trying to remember how exactly Blitzsteer fits into this. I think it's to do with... that's it, sorry, because it sacrifices itself. So the main idea with Blitzdeer is you will clone it and then you'll do the Reindeer Bomb. Maybe do a few Reindeer Strikes first just to get the damage up on Reindeer Bomb before you start doing it. But the idea is you're sacrificing yourself, i.e. charging Retribution on teammates. So there's a bit of synergy stuff that's kind of there, but maybe not intentionally there, like with the Prismarix and the Blitzdeer. But definitely is a bit of a sub-theme going on. Now the sub-themes which I choose to leave out, that I could have talked about, were the sleep sub-theme. There's a little bit of sleep going on, most noticeably, and what made me want to talk about it especially is Sweetfeather has a link, Hypnotize. So you would have thought, yeah, because it's a link move, it's kind of what Holy's doing, so it should really be a sub-theme in Holy, but there isn't actually that much there. There's just like 2 or 3 monsters, and I thought, nah, let's focus on the other things. Anti-stun sub-theme, there's a mixture of stun converters, stun counters, stun immunes, and, I say stun counters, there's one stun counter, but basically, Holy has some great anti-stun stuff, but it's not so noticeable as the other sub-themes. There's also a give turn sub-theme. Holy has more than any of the other elements for give turn monsters, I believe, and it's a thing there, but again, not as many as you would expect to like be a standout thing as a sub-theme. Also, Confident Strike sub-theme. Like I was saying, with the healing theme, I was looking very much for Confident Strike monsters. They haven't done a huge amount on that yet, though. So there's potential for that becoming a sub-theme in the element, but there isn't so much right now. There's also more Stealth Bane in Holy than the other elements, which makes sense because elements tend to have a theme and then also a counter to that theme built into the same element. So having the Mist theme where you purify and stealth your monsters, and then also having the Stealth Bane theme to kill those monsters makes sense. But again, there isn't enough monsters. I didn't even list it on this. But huge amount of archetypes and themes within Holy that can do a lot of different things. Holy has a lot to play with. We now move into the second section of this video, which is going through all the new monsters that came out. We start with Super Epics, and as always I'll do my best to go through these as quickly as possible, some of the simpler ones. This first one is Abyss Soldier Anti-Stan, and it is very exciting. It's one of the stronger Abyss Soldiers, if not the strongest. By itself is where it really stands out most of all. When it's with the Abyss Soldiers, it gets stun immunity. However, the issue is that its attack is too low for Fast Strike to really kill things, and while it's a stun immune give turn that's great for supporting the Abyss Soldiers, it very much is the only source of stun protection for Abyss Soldiers. So you gotta use it with their sweepers and hope that the give turn, the stun immune give turn for sweeping is great. However, if you're relying on this to be the stun protection, it's not going to really perform well enough. So it can accelerate and help them sweep, but you need to be using other sources of stun protection. This is just going to be a good support monster for them. Now, most of them are sweepers, so having this kind of support monster is great for supporting them, but it's not as great as you maybe want it to be. If it was like stun counter, then it would be very exciting, but stun immunity, stun converter, but stun immunity is just kind of not quite enough. By itself, though, it is incredible because it is so tanky, and the Fast Strike suddenly becomes one-shot, capable of doing one-shots easily. You've also got a very fast Accelerate team and Give Turn. Both of them are faster than you normally see, and what's great is that this monster can be +9, so that Accelerate team can be 84 seconds, and then the Give Turn becomes just 90 seconds. Now, it's not a stun immune monster, so compared to like some Legendaries, sometimes it's better to have a stun immune and Give Turn, but because this is so tanky, and it can also kill things itself, so it doesn't rely on there being a good target for Give Turn, I think this is one of the best Super Epics that we've seen. I've hesitantly put it not quite in the top tier because it is a little bit slow to get its first turn, but there's a lot it can do, and it's definitely very powerful. The next monster is another Abyss Soldier. This is the other Holy Abyss Soldier, and it's Poison, which is a little odd because Holy doesn't really have much poison, but it kind of makes sense because it's solo, so it's being used with the other monsters, and there are other poison other poison Abyss Soldiers, so this supports them with the auto poison. Now, you basically want to use this with the other Abyss Soldiers to support them because it can't actually poison monsters otherwise. However, the issue there is that the damage isn't actually high enough. Poison Massacre just isn't enough unless it's full attack, and even then it's kind of a little not quite enough on a super epic. Poison Eater definitely not enough, and that double repulse is slow, so it's not really that great to be used with other Abyss Soldiers, which is why I've rated it low. And the Lone Fish by itself, there suddenly it becomes powerful enough. However, you need to be using other monsters to poison the enemies, so that you can then start sweeping them with this. And there you'd probably use the 100-second Poison Eater, which is strong, to be fair. This is reasonably good like that, but it's very much a poison support monster for teams outside of Abyss Soldiers, where you're not using anything in Holy. Next monster is Sanctorius. Now, you may not have noticed, but this monster got a name change from Sanctahoof to Sanctorius. I have no idea why they did it. I think just for consistency purposes. But anyway, this monster is really interesting because it has the 2 revive moves, which revive monsters in 100% and 50% HP. We're used to 1 HP from Aura Dragon and Atrahasis. They're the most typical revival monsters that you use. However, this is a much more powerful version, bringing them back at the higher health. It does that at slightly slower speed. You've got 130 seconds, 160 seconds. You also need to probably create some rocks at the back of the team, and this is a solo monster as well, so you can't use it with any kind of Link revival strategies in Holy. But to be fair, we did get a Link revival monster in Cimarronix, so we've got a solo one now, we've got a Link one, fine, that's just how it is. Basically use this in an Earth team to revive monsters, and it's pretty cool for that. What's really interesting is it has max defense, it has very low speed as well, so it's got huge health, and both poison immunity and shield entrance. So that makes this incredibly tanky. Poison immunity and shield entrance means that even if there's, say, an auto poison or whatever, the monster will enter shielded. Shield entrance and hold ground as well have the slight problem that they can just be counteracted by auto poison, but poison immunity makes it a lot tougher to kill. So this is a tanky super epic, which is quite rare to see, and then also having the revival capability that is pretty strong. So it's a nice monster all round. Probably not top tier so much, but I have seen some people use it well, and it's definitely very interesting. The next monster is Sherloid, which is currently wrecking PvP as being just a horrible auto-protect camouflage monster. This is just nuts, really. High speed, high defense. It's got Purify. The hit single, hit all, that doesn't really matter. Basically, you just spam Purify with this, unless you need to get rid of stealth or shields on enemies. And this is surprisingly tanky, and then very difficult to deal with having the auto-protect and camouflage. If you've got Sanctus Stag, yeah, that's it. If you have Sanctus Stag, or you've faced Sanctus Stag before, you'll know how much of a menace it is. If you're playing PvP right now, you'll know how annoying Sherloid is. This is a brilliant monster that a lot of people are using right now, and I have a feeling that they're going to be bringing out sort of counters to this in the future to try and push it out of PvP a bit, because it is dominating there right now. The next monster is Flug Billy. So this is one of the Flugs, and like with the other Flugs, I will say that it's kind of hard to rate by looking at it itself. You need to kind of look at Flugs as a whole. This one is interesting because it's the team turn one, and when you feast it, you fully heal the team and get a shield on all of them. So this helps tie together the team. Almost all Flug teams include this particular one. It's one of the better ones because of that. And having Flug Slayerbane as well, that piercing Slayerbane just one-shots anything. So yeah, this monster has a lot to offer in terms of working with the other Flugs. A lot of people use it well, and it's kind of difficult to say anything more about that, really. It's one of the Flugs, and the Flugs are actually really strong right now. The Feast move, I'm going to be asking for that to be nerfed and go to higher seconds, because it got reduced kind of at my request as well, and then yeah, they've become really quite strong. But anyway, this is one of the better Flugs, and let's move on to the super epics. The Legendaries. So this is the first legendary to look at. It was Grizzleguard. Bit of a controversial monster, this one. People didn't like it at all. However, it's been buffed, and it's actually quite good. It's not exceptional. So what makes this really interesting is the Call to Arms passive. When this monster enters, then a random teammate gets given a turn, except itself. So this used to have the clause that it couldn't give turn to, say, a team turn. However, now it can. So no matter what it is in your team, this can have a chance to give turn to it. So team turn did get nerfed, so that's kind of the reason why it got removed. But basically, you can have this in the front line in 5th position, sorry, and you have some fast entrance control into it, and then have some slow monsters, which then there's a good chance that one of them will instantly get a turn. It's a little bit RNG, of course, but Call to Arms essentially is a better roaring entrance, and certainly in the mid game and stuff, it can help protect you from some stun a little bit, just with the off chance that if your team has been stunned or whatever, this entering can give them a turn. It has high speed itself, and now while this looks like a protect monster, and it definitely is a protect monster, it's weak to both the protect and chrono killer, it's kind of more a sweeper. So it's got high defense, it's got hold ground, it is very tanky like a lot of holy monsters, but it's got double blood crave. So ideally, when this comes in, whatever you give turn to, you then set up a kill for Grizzleguard. So you put something to 1 HP, and then with Grizzleguard, when it gets a turn, you use the instant Overwatch and then hit that thing with Adverse Strike or Double Blood Crave if you need to hit around a Protector, say. And then what you've got there is a tanky monster that when it gets hit will get a turn and immediately do Double Blood Crave, and otherwise every time it gets a turn will do Double Blood Crave. Now that's the ideal scenario, and ideally, something's been stunned and you give turn to it. You can see this can really help swing games very nicely, but that is ideally, and you don't always get that. That's why people don't like this so much, because it's a little bit kind of iffy in terms of, it's just not reliable enough. And if you can't get a kill on it the first turn, you're basically forced to protect teammates. And then if you did the instant Overwatch before that, it's likely they'll just hit it with something small. It gets a turn again, but it can't do anything with a turn. And then, they just kill it off before it can actually get any kills. So it's kind of, it's very unreliable, but you can do quite well with it. And clearly, how it's meant to work with the instant Overwatch, protect teammates and Adverse Strike and hold ground, is that you draw the attack in, you've got the Overwatch, so they hit you to hold ground, and then it gets a turn. It's on hold ground, and you can use Adverse Strike to kill something. That's kind of the idea, but in practice, it's more about the giving turn, I would say, and setting up a kill for it to then turn it into a sweeper, as opposed to drawing in the attack and using it as a protector or that kind of thing. The next monster is Mist Moth. Now, each element got a moth, and they all have to go through the Pooper form first, which is a very tanky and slow monster that needs to pass 100 seconds from its first turn before then it can turn into the moth. If it gets killed, then it turns into the 5-star version of the moth, which is essentially the same as the 6-star, but without the passives and the secret skill. So each of them are very much held back by this Pooper form. It's very hard to get to this form, and it's very important to look at how the moveset would work in the 5-star form first as well. So this monster in the 5-star form is actually very, very good. So it doesn't get the stealth when it comes in. The 6-star version does, it stealths your whole team, but when it gets a turn, it can then use the 70-second move to stealth itself to then double sneak attack. Now, the double sneak attack is exceptionally powerful. There are the other moths, some of them have moves which aren't powerful enough, so when they're in the 5-star version, they can't kill things, but the Mist Moth does, and 70 seconds to set it up is actually viable. There are other monsters in the game with like 100 seconds or 130 seconds with the stealth to then do the sneak attack, and that doesn't work. That's too long. You often just lose the stealth in that time. But 70 seconds is short enough that you can set it up to then do the double sneak attack, and double sweeping from a super epic is really good, as well as the ally substitute level 5 is exceptionally powerful. In the 5-star version of the moth, it's not so good just doing it on itself because it doesn't have any entrance, but having a pullback to use on something with an entrance is very good. And in Holy you have say the stun monsters with stunning entrance and that kind of stuff, so you can create lots of targets, or just otherwise use this in a team outside of Holy to have some kind of pullback target for that. The Daimonoid it creates is very good for slowing down the enemy. So yeah, a lot going on with this. The 6-star version can come in and sweep 2 targets like a lot of the moths, instantly doing that. And stealthing your team is actually very beneficial in a lot of instances. So this is among the best moths, I would say, if not the best moth. Just because all round it's going to work quite nicely. The only thing is it's held back by that Pooper form. Next Legendary to talk about, this is the one which didn't come out in 2019. This was the anniversary from the previous year that I wanted to talk about, but it's not one of the new ones. And I kind of overrated this when it originally came out, but it is very strong, and I find it interesting, and I want to talk about this one, because this shows kind of an advancement in Holy compared to how it was in the past. I've talked before about how they're tanky and how they can counter everything, and how they are slow. This is an idea. This is a monster which is not slow and tanky. This is actually quite easy to kill, and it's high speed. But it plays very much into Holy with the fact that it can control, and it's very versatile. So what's special about this is the 81% speed with Repulse. Now Repulse did get nerfed this year to be 70 seconds rather than 50, but it's still exceptionally good having this in the front line, and clearly the idea is use the Repulse to get rid of their stun protection, then follow up with Stun Pulse, and then you can use the Time Strike double to then get the 2 kills for Raw Bloodthirst. So it's kind of playing into the sweeping. However, between Stun Pulse and Repulse, there's a lot you can do to control the enemy team, and with the high speed, that is exceptionally good. You've then also got the very interesting and useful move Execute that comes up against, say, rocks, or just generally it comes up quite a bit in battles, more than you'd think, to kill things. And then the Raw Bloodthirst is a very good sweeping move. And when you had Stun Converter into the mix, this is an exceptionally versatile and strong sweeper. Now the only issue is that because of the Stun Converter, and Execute actually makes it weak to Chronokiller as well, but basically it's weak to Chronokiller, and it's got the low defense and low health, so it's very easy for the enemy to kill off, but exceptionally good while it's on the field. It also gets shut down quite a bit by a Stun Absorber with Camouflage, because Time Strike double needs to be able to hit the target which gets stunned. So it can be shut down, but ultimately it really adds to Holy, I think, and it fits in nicely with the whole way of controlling the battle and having a bit of stun, which Holy has stun. And it really fits fills in the gaps where a lot of the Holy monsters are slow. This one is fast. The next monster is Prison Paw. This came out in the Valentine's Day festival, and as you can probably tell by the design of it, it's a rainbow bear with a love heart on it. Anyway, this is probably the hardest monster to understand when you first look at it. It's got some really wacky moves, and basically what it does is the top moves do damage, and the bottom moves set up the top moves. It alternates its health between 80% and 20%, doing different moves, and it can stealth itself, I believe. It can stealth itself, it can hit all enemies or hit the single target. It's complicated, but basically it's quite tanky, it's got hold ground, and it can manipulate its health to do these different moves. The problem is the moves are relatively slow. It doesn't have immunity to stun or anything else, so it can be disabled. It gets disabled by poison pretty nastily, so what you really need for this is for it to be supported by some good Holy monsters. Most importantly, ones which can heal it and purify it. So we've got a lot of that in Holy, and it definitely fits in. I think Prison Paw has some good potential. It just doesn't stand out as amazing because by itself it struggles. It really needs that support, and it's not exceptional if you do have that support. So I'm not going to go into any more detail on it. I think it's a cool monster, and I'm happy that they got it in the game, but it's a little more challenging to use, and I look forward to seeing some people use it well. So now moving on to Mythics. The first Mythic to look at is Brynhilda. This came out at the same time as Prison Paw that we just looked at. This one is exciting, however, it is a solo monster, and there's been a few solo monsters this year, you might have noticed. Holy did not get much support, and Brynhilda is a good example of that, where she does what Holy does, but can't do it with other Holy monsters around. So she's very tanky, with good defense, exceptionally high health and hold ground. It's very hard to kill her. She has no weaknesses as well to any killer moves. Double Dark Bane is a lovely sweeping move, and when she enters, she fully heals the team. So if you've, if she's been knocked back or anything like that, re-entering, she'll be on full health again. And that whole healing your team as well would work very nicely in Holy for the healing theme, maybe to fit with confident strike monsters and that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, because her main move is the Ragnarok move, the secret skill, that can't be used if there are Holy allies on the field. Now, I think the main reason why that condition is in there is just because you can create multiple copies of Brynhilda and have multiple copies there. If they could all use their Ragnarok, it would be insane. And they extended that from you can't use this if there's another Brynhilda on the field to you can't use this if you've got Holy monsters. But anyway, this has a lot going on with it. Revival is an exceptionally strong skill, reviving the last thing in 100% health. We've seen it on a previous monster, Sanctorius, we looked at a little bit earlier. But on here it's a lot, it's almost better because she can recreate herself with the Ragnarok. She comes in on full HP again at the back of the team, and so then you can use Revival again. Now you've got to be careful that you don't revive her, but anyway, that Ragnarok move is ridiculously powerful, and Brynhilde is basically the best pick for Island Challenge, because Ragnarok alone can kill things, and she is incredibly hard to stop because you only have about 80 seconds before she gets another turn, if she's at the back of the team. Sorry, I'm picturing this out in my head. If she's at the back of the team, say she's the only monster you got on the field, you can use Ragnarok, bam, you kill something, she then re-enters, and she's on full health, and gets a turn in 80 seconds. Now, if they can't kill her in 80 seconds, then she will use Ragnarok again, bang, kill something else, re-enter on full health, and you've got 80 seconds to kill her again. Because she's got no weaknesses, and she can kill anything she wants with Ragnarok, it is exceptionally powerful. Now, we haven't really seen her in play against people, or just otherwise in PvE, because not many people have her awakened, but she might be very exciting. So I've hesitantly put her as a good mythic, but we need to kind of see her in practice outside of Island Challenge. Pardon also comes up a little bit, and Double Dark Bane is a great sweeping move. So there's a lot going on with Brynhilde. She's exceptionally strong and exciting, but we need to kind of see her in practice to really know where she stands. The next mythic is Excalibur Dragon. Now this is due for a buff very soon. Next update they've said that they're buffing Crescendo monsters, so I don't know what's going to happen with this one, and I'm hesitant to say too much about this, but basically it's pretty tanky. It's got the good speed which you see on every Crescendo monster, and with the whole ground and unmovable is good, because a problem with Crescendo monsters is if they get knocked back or repulsed, then it resets their Crescendo, so they then become useless for ages. Now, as with all Crescendo monsters, they need a lot of time to set up at the beginning. They actually changed this knockback next to Stun Pulse, which gives it something to do early on. The healing move is pretty good for keeping itself alive, but again, it's solo. There's a lot of solo this year in Holy. And what's probably the most exciting thing is Crescendo Dance. So in this screenshot it says it's a 3-time use, however they've changed it so it's now unlimited use. It takes a few uses before it does massive damage, but if you can combine this monster with Give Turn, you can Give Turn to it lots and then turn Crescendo Dance into just kill all the enemies, and you can just repeat that. And then after you've done that maybe a few times, then you can Crescendo Slash to kill a single target. Now, what makes this slightly less exciting and not work that well in general is that the damage from both Crescendo Slash and Crescendo Dance is tiny. It takes forever to charge this up. So you really do need the Give Turns to Crescendo Dance to hit all the enemies and get multiple charges at a time, and with the extra turns it can start to get there. It's difficult to use, and the secret skill I haven't talked about at all because it's kind of weird. You make an Aegis Dragon, which then means you can't use the Solar Healing Light, and it's just, So anyway, this monster I've been a little bit down on, but it may have some potential. We'll have to see how it gets buffed. It's a cool Crescendo monster that can have some potential in the future. Prismegasus is the next monster. Now this is quite an exciting monster for the Linker move. It is called Linker. The Linker passive, which means it adds to the link of any element. And this is a great addition for Holy. However, it's kind of weird because it's not really an addition for Holy. It's an addition for every element. So the one one of the bigger bits of support that Holy got this year was Prismegasus. However, it's support for every element. So it's not really, anything special for Holy. And in fact, where it works best is in Earth. So if you watch the Earth video, you'll know that I mentioned that there's a Retribution strategy which has come out. And in fact, at the beginning of this video, I mentioned how it's good for both Holy and Earth. They both kind of have the Retribution capability. So this monster works very well in Earth teams with the Link Double Retribution. That's the main move that you're using here. It's just incredibly powerful, and it's only 100 seconds. And then also the Link Give Turn is a fast Give Turn. It's 100 seconds and on a stun immune monster. So that can come into play a lot. It's got good defense, good health. It doesn't have any hold ground, so sometimes it will just get hit by a Chrono Killer or that kind of thing and go away very quickly. But it has got a lot going for it with the moves that it's got. The secret skill is probably where you'd want to go more than the Link Summon Minions. I can't imagine using the summon minions that much. That's the Earth support again that's in there. But the Link Shield All is very useful for helping your team survive. I like how they've made it so versatile for the different elements. Like pretty much every element wants give turn. Link double retribution. Retribution naturally gets charged in every team. It's stun immune, which means it can just kind of be thrown into a team without specific things around it. Stealth Bane is a nice sweeping move, and then the Link Summon Minions doesn't come up so much, but the Link Shield All is a good support move for any team. Our last monster to talk about is Voidress. Now this was an exciting monster when we saw it. It got overhyped, then it got underhyped, and now people are using it and working out how it works. It's a complicated monster to figure out because it's got the move Bloodbath, which is the main kind of thing that you want to go for. However, you need 3 kills before it can start sweeping the whole enemy field. So to get those 3 kills, there's kind of a few options. The best one is the secret skill, which is Eclipse. It's basically a catapult that's very reliable at killing something and doesn't trigger a revenge passive. So you can often hit something which has a powerful revenge with this skill, and it's very, very useful for taking that out. It's great for killing monsters with whole ground and shields and that kind of stuff too. Just a very reliable kill, which because this monster has shield entrance, camouflage, pretty good speed, high defense, it's going to very reliably get a turn and get that move off, which just instantly lets you trade 1 for 1. It's also got Payback Killer, which comes up in quite a few cases, in PvE mainly, to kill death revenge monsters and that kind of thing. However, not the most reliable way to get kills. So after that first kill, you are stuck with pretty much 2 moves that you can use. Ritual 6, which is killing any legendary or mythic on your team, just basically like a backstab, or Power Slash, which does okay damage, but ultimately you can't really kill anything other than like shadow monsters, and you can kill shadow monsters in 2 hits maybe, or about 2 hits I think generally. Other monsters you've got to use it 3 times, which is kind of too slow really. So what you need to do is you get 1 kill with the Eclipse, then you want to be using this in a team which has particular monsters that you don't mind ritualing. A typical example of this is Motor Dragon, which has the most powerful bit about it when it enters, putting the 2 bronze shells in the enemy team. It can then use the secret skill to add 3 more when it gets a turn, and then it's just kind of fodder. Like for this, you need to kill it off. So Voidress is excellent at using Ritual 6 on that. And so doing it on that, and then maybe doing it on something else, or going to the Power Slash, or maybe something's on low health or on whole ground, so you can just Bloodbath anyway and get the 3rd kill there. And then this becomes an exceptionally good sweeper. So this monster all round has quite a lot going for it in terms of control and killing, and it survives well, which is just what makes it so good. It's very hard to kill this off with the camouflage, shield, and high defense. So there's a lot going for this, and in the right teams, it's exceptionally powerful. However, you need certain monsters who need to be doing certain things in order to make it work well. Now we're on to the 3rd section of this video, which is talking about where these monsters fit into the element that have been added this year, and where the element stands in general, and what I would like to see the element having going forwards. So Holy didn't get as much support this year. I've mentioned at various points that's the case. The good monsters were like Solo, or we've got Prismegasus that can actually be used in any element, and say Sherloid here, you can see in a couple of the themes here. It is Holy, fine, you can use it with Link Holy stuff, but like it's more about its use as an auto protect camouflage with Purify than actually being a Holy monster. But anyway, we did get some good Holy monsters, and you can see that they fitted into the various themes here, kind of excluding Nultron. It didn't come out in this last year, but it was the stun monster that came out. Looking at the healing theme, we got the Prism Paw, which wants to be healed, which is good because we got loads of healing stuff in Holy, and it's not a solo monster, so it can fit into that quite nicely. And then Excalibur Dragon, it's in the healing theme because it has solo healing light, but it's a solo move, so it doesn't really fit with Holy stuff exactly. It can't be used in a Link team. The Mist theme, we got the Mist Moth. Not surprised there. Each of the moths fit with a particular theme of the element. Holy wants the mist stuff, so we've got that. Sherloid fitting into there, and also the Retribution theme, because Retribution it wants auto protects and that kind of stuff. Got a couple of monsters of the Retribution theme. That's definitely something that's been pushed this last year, mainly because Earth has been expanding. It got doubled in monsters, and one of the big things which they added in for Earth this year was Retribution. So there's a couple of other things that are off Earth, that fit with that work quite well with it. Voidress is one of them, but Prismaticus is the main one there. That's definitely built for Earth. And then we've got the revival stuff, but 2 revival monsters, but both of them being solo, so they weren't actually supporting Holy. They were just Holy-esque monsters that, obviously in Holy, because Holy does revival stuff, but we can't actually use them in Link Holy. So in terms of actual support for Link Holy here, we got very, very little, which it should be pretty obvious from this screen. So where does Holy stand now? I think Holy is fine in general. Holy was great before this year, and even though it didn't get much added, the others are just kind of caught up. It was a standout element. I would say it definitely was the strongest, not by a huge amount over Water, but it definitely did stand out. And then the fact it hasn't had anything, now other elements are kind of more in league with it. But that said, it's fine. It's got a lot of control and powerful things in there. A lot of sweeping potential and different things you can build around or take from to then use in other teams and stuff. Like Angel Line, for example, just fits in pretty much any team because it's got stun counter and loads of different moves that work wherever you put it in any team. So there isn't much support for Link. There are a few different Link moves. They tend to be quite support moves as opposed to killing moves, which I think maybe there's something to do there, but basically that's how things fit, and I think it's okay in general. Holy is definitely a good element. So what does it need going forwards? Like I was just saying, I think there should be more Link stuff. I said perhaps a Link sweeper. So for example, we have in Fire a couple of monsters with Link Bloodbite, and we've got that kind of thing in different elements. Maybe in Earth we've got Emeraldius with Link Double Retribution. We did get Prismaticus with Link Double Retribution, but it's Link with everything. I think Holy would definitely benefit from some sweeping potential that is tied with Link. So you've got to sort of build around the Link, and then you have a lot of support and control from all the monsters, but then you've got your sort of special sweeper that you've kind of actually gone with Holy for, so you can have that sweeping potential. I also think maybe Survivor could be expanded. I mentioned when I was talking about Survivor at the time that it was there at the beginning of the game. We've had a few more entrances, like a few more monsters which have Survivor on them in Holy. It's definitely a bit of a theme in Holy, and I would like to see that made a little bit more viable, like it was in the past. That's something which maybe it should, when Holy gets some extra stuff, maybe that's the thing which Holy should get. And then maybe more around the healing as well. Healing, there's tons of it in Holy, and it would be nice to see a Confident Strike theme. I tried to look for it when I was looking at the monsters, but there wasn't actually enough there to maybe build around. There's some synergy with healing stuff to do stuff, but it would be cool if Holy was the Confident Strike element, and so that fitted nicely with the healing, turning healing into damage. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you do check out the other elements. This one was a little bit different to the other ones because we didn't get much support, but I spent a lot of time talking about the monsters and how Holy works in general, because I think, well, if you hadn't guessed, Holy is my favourite element. I'm biased towards it, and the only negativity in this video really was me talking about how it didn't get enough support, but then again, I'm fine with that because it's good anyway. But anyway, so I hope you check out the other videos. I've got the Earth and Fire that are out already, and the other ones will be coming out soon. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one.